Chapter 1: The System Makes a Decision. I died in a very embarrassing way. Not heroically. Not tragically. Not even in a way that would make a good story at a drinking table. I slipped in my bathroom. There was soap. There was water. There was me, extremely confident about my balance. And then there was gravity, reminding me that confidence is not the same thing as friction. The last thing I remember is thinking, if I survive this, I'm throwing that soap away. I did not survive this, which, frankly, feels like overkill. You'd think the universe could let a man bruise his pride and move on. No. Apparently the penalty for bathroom arrogance is immediate death and interdimensional employment. Because when I opened my eyes again, I was not in my bathroom. I was not in a hospital. I was not anywhere. There was no floor, no ceiling, no walls. Just a wide stretch of dim, gray space that looked like someone had tried to render reality and given up halfway. I blinked. Did I hit my head so hard I unlocked a hidden level? A voice answered me. Not from the front. Not from behind. Not from anywhere a voice should logically exist. Simply was. Host consciousness restored. I froze. What? Binding complete. I looked down at myself. Still me. Same hands. Same body. No glowing tattoos. No floating screens. Slightly disappointed, honestly. Binding to what? System. Lovemaking arc successfully installed. I stared into the gray nothing. Excuse me. Primary objective. Complete the fated union. I rubbed my face. Okay. Pause. Pause. I just died in my bathroom. I have not emotionally processed that yet. Could you maybe start with something normal like, welcome? Or, sorry for your loss. Silence. Then, union incomplete. Restarting. I blinked. Restarting what? And then the world shifted. Not spun. Not cracked. Not exploded. It simply moved, like someone dragging a background image across a screen. My stomach did a slow, unpleasant roll. When the motion stopped, I was still standing in nothing, which was rude. If you're going to restart something, at least give me a floor. I sighed. All right, since we're clearly doing this now, I have questions. Questions irrelevant to objective. Rude. I pointed vaguely at the air. What union? What love? Who signed me up? I don't remember consenting to any lovemaking arc. Host participation mandatory. Oh, so this is a kidnapping. Correction. Destiny. That's what kidnappers say. There was a faint hum in the space around me, like the system was reconsidering my attitude. I folded my arms. Look, if this is about reincarnation or missions or whatever nonsense plot device you're running, at least give me a briefing. I deserve a slideshow. A pause. Then, target present. I frowned. What target? I turned. And that's when I noticed I wasn't alone. Someone was standing a few steps away from me. I don't know how long he'd been there. I don't know if he appeared just now or if he'd always been there and my brain decided to load him late. He stood very straight, hands at his sides, calm, still, like he belonged here, like I was the one out of place. He was tall, dressed in dark clothing that didn't match any era I recognized. Long hair tied back loosely, features sharp but not harsh. The kind of face that artists would fight over because it was too easy to make beautiful. But that's not what made me stare. It was the feeling. I knew him. I had never seen this man before in my life. And I knew him so well it felt like my chest tightened around the recognition. He was looking at me, not surprised, not curious, just looking, like this was expected, like I was late. Pointed at him. Do you know what's going on? He didn't answer. His eyes were very dark, steady, quiet in a way that made me feel like I was the loudest thing in existence. I turned back to the air. Is he part of the kidnapping? Target identified. Shun Luchin. I nodded slowly. Okay, great. We have names now. Progress. I looked back at him. Hi, Shin Luchin. I just died in a bathroom incident and now I'm in what I can only describe as budget afterlife. Any thoughts? Nothing. Not even a blink. Which, for some reason, made me grin. Because I suddenly felt very sure of one thing. I liked him. No reason. No logic. Just instant, unreasonable approval. My type of decision-making, honestly. I walked closer. He didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't step back. Up close, the feeling got worse. Or better. Dangerously better. It was like meeting someone you'd been missing for a long time without realizing you were missing them. I tilted my head. Have we met? A pause. His voice, when he finally spoke, was low and calm. No. I squinted at him. You sure? Because my chest feels like it just recognized you before my brain did. He said nothing, which I decided to interpret as mysterious, not awkward. I stuck my hands in my pockets and rocked on my heels. Okay, new plan. Since the floating kidnapper voice refuses to explain anything, I'm going to start with the important questions. He watched me carefully. I grinned. Hey, you single? The air behind me hummed. Host deviation detected. I ignored it. Shin Liuchen's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Something small. Something sharp. Like a crack in glass. Yes, he said. I beamed. Nice. Reminder. Objective is union. I pointed upward. See? I'm working on it. I looked back at him. Do you know what's happening? A beat. Yes. Oh good. Please explain. No. I laughed. You're either very helpful or very unhelpful. I haven't decided yet. The gray space around us started to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. World initialization in progress. I looked around. Ah, here we go. The slideshow finally starts. The space began to dissolve into light. Before everything changed, I glanced at him one more time. He was still watching me. Not like a stranger. Not like someone curious. But like someone who had already seen this moment before. Many times. And for some reason, that thought didn't scare me. Felt familiar. I smiled at him. All right, Shin Luchin. Whatever nonsense this is, looks like we're doing it together. His gaze softened almost imperceptibly. Yes, he said quietly. The world crashed into place around us. Chapter 2, World 1. Sect Rivals. The first thing I learned about my new life was that flying on swords looks a lot cooler from the ground. The second thing I learned was that I was apparently a disciple of the Azure Cloud sect, which meant I wore white robes, cultivated spiritual energy, and had at least 3 senior brothers who hated me on sight. The third thing I learned was that Shin Luchin belonged to the Crimson Star sect, which explained why the system kept screaming at me internally every time I smiled at him. Let me back up. When the gray nothing dissolved, I woke up face down on cold stone, the smell of incense and iron in the air. My head hurt in a very specific way that told me information had been forcibly shoved into my brain. Name, Chi Yu. Identity, inner disciple. Cultivation level, not impressive. Status, alive. Again. Great. At least this time I didn't die naked. I muttered, pushing myself up. A group of people in matching robes stood around me. White, blue trim, embroidered clouds. Very elegant. Very judgmental. One of them sneered. Junior Brother Chi, you overslept before the sect assembly. Do you want the elders to skin you alive? I blinked at him. Right. Social hierarchy. Respect. Fear. I smiled brightly. If they do, can I skip afternoon training? He looked like he wanted to stab me. So far, so good. That was when the memory hit me. Not my memory. The body's memory. Today was the joint trial. A diplomatic disaster waiting to happen. The Azure Cloud sect and the Crimson Star sect had been enemies for generations. Ideological differences, resource disputes, one very dramatic betrayal 100 years ago. The usual cultivation nonsense. And today, our disciples were meeting for a friendly competition, which meant sword fights, spiritual techniques, and barely concealed murder attempts. I straightened my robes and followed the others toward the mountain arena. That was where I saw him. Shin Luchin stood among the Crimson Star disciples like a blade sheathed in human form. Dark robes, red accents, long hair tied back with a simple cord, calm posture, hands resting loosely at his sides. He wasn't doing anything, and yet, everyone was unconsciously giving him space. I stopped walking. My heart did something deeply stupid. "Oh, there you are," I said quietly. The system did not respond, which was suspicious. Our eyes met across the arena. There it was again. That feeling. Like my soul leaned forward before my brain caught up. His gaze flickered. Just slightly. Recognition. Not surprise. Never surprise. Like he'd been waiting to see when I'd show up. I grinned. The disciple next to me hissed, "Chi-Yu, don't stare at him. That's Shinluchen, Crimson Star's top disciple." "Top, huh? I do love a man with ambition," I murmured. "What?" I stepped forward before anyone could stop me. The elders began their long, boring speech about harmony and restraint. I barely heard it. I was too busy watching Shinluchen. He listened politely, calm, obedient, a model disciple, which meant, obviously, I had to ruin his day. The first duel was announced. By some cosmic sense of humor, or maybe the system's interference, our names were called together. Chi-Yu of Azure Cloud. Shinluchen of Crimson Star. I laughed under my breath. "Oh, you are definitely obsessed," I muttered to the universe. We stepped onto the arena. The barrier rose. The crowd faded into background noise. He bowed, proper and formal. I bowed back. Sloppy. Casual. "Senior Brother Shin, please go easy on me," I said cheerfully. His eyes narrowed a fraction. "You should take this seriously," he replied. I tilted my head. "Why? You look serious enough for both of us." The signal sounded. He moved first. Fast. Clean. His sword left its sheath in a smooth arc, spiritual energy flaring sharp and precise. I barely dodged, laughing as the blade cut through where my neck had been a second earlier. "Oh wow, no warning? That's cold," I said. "You're distracting," he said flatly. "Thank you." I retaliated, channeling spiritual energy into my sword, clashing steel against steel. Sparks flew. The impact numbed my arm. He was strong, controlled, every strike efficient, which only made this more fun. "You know, for someone from a so-called evil sect, you're very handsome," I said. Spinning out of his reach, his sword faltered. Just a hair. I saw it. I beamed. "There it is. Focus," he snapped. "Oh, I'm focusing on how pretty your eyes are," I said, stepping in close instead of retreating. We were too close now. Our blades crossed, locked between us, our faces inches apart. His breath hitched. I felt it. I shouldn't have noticed that. I definitely shouldn't have liked it. The system hummed ominously. Host behavior deviation increasing. I ignored it and smiled wider. "Do you get flustered often, senior pretty face?" His jaw tightened. "My name is Shinluchen." "I know, I like saying it," I said. Something in his eyes darkened. Pain. I didn't understand it, but it was there. Heavy. Old. For a split second, it felt like I'd said something I wasn't supposed to remember. Then he shoved me back hard, breaking the lock, and launched a flurry of strikes that forced me to retreat. The crowd roared. We fought hard after that. No more talking. Just movement, steel, energy. Eventually, the elder called a halt. A draw. We stepped back. He didn't look at me. I wiped sweat from my brow and leaned closer, lowering my voice. "You watch me like you're afraid I'll disappear." His fingers tightened around his sword. "Don't flatter yourself," he said. I studied his profile, the tension in his shoulders, the restraint carved into every line of him. Then I smiled, soft this time. "Too late. I'm already flattered," I said. As we left the arena, I felt it again. That certainty. Whatever this world was, whatever this system wanted, one thing was clear. We were enemies in name only. And I was very, very interested in ruining that. Chapter 3: The Kiss During a Duel. I discovered something important 3 days after the sect trial. Shinluchen was avoiding me, which was hilarious, because we were staying in the same mountain range for the duration of the diplomatic exchange, and I had absolutely no intention of letting that happen. You can avoid a person. You cannot avoid me. I made it my personal mission. Breakfast hall? I sat across from him. Training grounds? I practiced on the platform next to his. Meditation pavilion? I loudly meditated 3 feet away and asked if breathing too loudly counted as a cultivation technique. He endured all of it with the patience of someone who had suffered far worse than me, which only encouraged me. By the 4th day, the disciples from both sects had formed a respectful circle of space around us at all times. Like we were a natural disaster they were waiting to witness. That afternoon, the elders announced another friendly spar between disciples to promote mutual understanding, which translated meant, try not to kill each other, but if you do, we'll call it a learning experience. Our names were called again. I laughed out loud. Do you think the elders ship us? I asked as we stepped onto the arena. Shinluchin didn't even sigh this time. You talk too much. And you don't talk enough. Between us, we're a very balanced pair. The barrier rose. This time, he attacked immediately. No warning. No hesitation. His sword came at me in a clean arc meant to end the fight quickly. I barely dodged and stumbled back, grinning. Ah, straight to business today? His eyes were sharper than before, colder. He wasn't playing along anymore. He was trying to end this fast, which meant I had successfully gotten under his skin. I parried, steel ringing loud in the arena, spiritual energy crackling between us. The air felt charged, like a storm waiting to break. He pressed hard. Fast strikes. No wasted movement. I retreated, laughing breathlessly. You're very intense for a friendly spar, Senior Pretty Face. Stop calling me that. No. Our swords locked again. This time I didn't step back. I stepped forward. Too close. So close our robes brushed. So close I could feel the heat of him through the layers of fabric. His sword was caught at an awkward angle between us, my hand pressing against the flat of the blade near the hilt to keep it from moving. His eyes flicked down, then back up, and in that tiny hesitation I saw it. Not anger, not irritation, something else. Something that looked suspiciously like fear. Why do you look like that? I asked quietly. Like what? Like I'm about to do something you've seen before. He froze, just for a heartbeat, and I understood very clearly that if I stepped back now, the moment would disappear. So I didn't. I leaned in instead. Not because I planned it. Not because I thought it through. Just because my body decided before my brain could argue. I kissed him. Quick. Light. A stupid, impulsive press of my lips against his. Like I was stealing something just to see if I could. The entire arena went silent. I pulled back immediately, grinning. There. You look too serious. I fixed it. He grabbed me. Not roughly. Not violently. But with sudden, precise intent. His hands slid to the back of my neck, fingers firm, and before I could even process what was happening, he pulled me back in. And kissed me, not quick, not teasing, slow, deliberate, like he had all the time in the world, like he had been waiting for this exact moment for a very, very long time. My brain stopped working. His lips were warm, steady, certain in a way that made my chest feel tight and strange. This was not a reaction. This was recognition. I forgot we were in the middle of a duel, forgot the crowd, the sections. The sword still in our hands. There was only the way his fingers tightened slightly in my hair, the way he tilted his head just enough, the way he kissed me like this wasn't new, like this wasn't surprising, like this was something he knew by heart. When he finally let go, my mind felt blank. I stared at him. He stared back, breathing controlled, expression calm, but his eyes looked wrecked, like something inside him had just cracked open. Behind us, a mechanical voice echoed in the air. Romantic convergence achieved. I blinked. You heard that too, right? I asked. He didn't answer. The elder's voice finally shattered the silence. What in the heavens are you two doing? Continue the match. I looked at Shinluchin. He looked at me. Then, very calmly, he lowered his sword. I concede, he said. The arena exploded into noise. What? You can't just surrender after kissing me. That's terrible sportsmanship. I yelped. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. You need to stop provoking me. I grinned. You say that like it's possible. His gaze softened in a way that made my stomach flip. "You have no idea," he said quietly. I should have asked what he meant. I should have felt confused. Instead, I just smiled at him like this was the most natural thing in the world. Because somehow it was, and I didn't understand why. Chapter 4, Separation Triggered. If I'm being honest, I didn't expect to die that day. I know, that sounds ridiculous, considering I already had a proven track record of dying in stupid ways. Bathroom soap. Gravity. Zero dignity. But this time felt different. This time I felt settled. The days after the duel passed strangely smoothly. Too smoothly. The elders pretended nothing had happened, which meant they were absolutely discussing it behind closed doors. The disciples pretended not to stare, which meant they stared constantly. And Shinluchen? He stopped avoiding me. He didn't seek me out either. But when I showed up, he didn't leave. That alone felt like a victory. We trained together once. Accidentally, officially. The elders framed it as cross-sect learning. I framed it as quality time. He corrected my sword form without touching me. I corrected his mood by smiling too much. "You're going to get yourself killed," he said at one point. Watching me attempt a reckless maneuver, I wiped sweat from my face. "You sound worried." "I'm practical." "Same thing." He didn't argue. That should have been my warning. The trial that ended everything was not scheduled. It was an ambush. We were sent into the forest to hunt demonic beasts. Joint mission, cooperation, mutual trust. All the words people use right before something goes wrong. The air felt off from the start. Too quiet. Even the birds knew better. I noticed it first. "Seen your pretty face, you feel that?" I said lightly, walking beside him. "Yes, stay alert," he replied immediately. His hand drifted closer to his sword. I laughed. "Always." The attack came from the left. A demonic beast burst from the trees, twisted and massive, spiritual energy spiking violently. Not something that should have been in a trial zone. "Formation!" someone shouted. Too late. The beast lashed out, claws tearing through the space where Shinluchen had been standing a heartbeat earlier. He moved fast, faster than anyone else. But even he wasn't fast enough to avoid the second strike. I didn't think. That's the truth. There was no dramatic realization, no noble resolve. I just moved. I shoved him out of the way and felt pain explode through my chest. It was surprisingly sharp, then surprisingly distant. The world tilted. I hit the ground hard, breath tearing out of me in a wet, awful sound that did not bode well for my continued existence. "Chi-Yu." I heard him say my name. Not calmly, not evenly. My vision blurred. The sky above me looked too blue, too clear, like it was mocking me. "Well, that's inconvenient," I muttered, coughing. Blood soaked through my robes. "Warm. Dicky. That's bad." The beast was slain moments later. I heard shouting, chaos, the sound of blades and spells. None of it felt important anymore. What felt important was the way Shinluchen dropped to his knees beside me. His hands hovered over me like he didn't know where he was allowed to touch. Why did you do that?" he said, voice tight. I smiled at him. "It hurt. Everything hurt. Because you were standing there," I said, breathless. His jaw clenched. His eyes were shaking. I reached up with what little strength I had and grabbed his sleeve. "Hey, you're making that face again," I said. "What face?" "The one where you look like you're about to lose something." His hand closed around mine. Too tight. "You already did," he said. I laughed. Came out wet and broken and completely sincere. "Worth it." He shook his head. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "I kissed you. I annoyed you for days. I got stabbed dramatically. That's a good life." I asked. "Stop talking, just stay. Please," he said desperately. Something in his voice tugged at me, like déjà vu I couldn't place. I blinked slowly. "You sound like this isn't the first time," I murmured. His breath hitched. I frowned slightly. "Have I done this before?" Silence. Not because he didn't hear me, because he couldn't answer. The edges of my vision started to darken. There it is." I sighed. If I forget you, that's really unfair, I said, suddenly annoyed by the thought. You won't, I won't let you, he said immediately. Too fast. Too certain. I smiled at him. You're very confident. I have to be. I wanted to tell him not to look like that. I wanted to tell him that whatever this was, whatever weight he was carrying, he didn't have to carry it alone. But my body was already slipping. The world felt thin. Hey, Shinluchan, I said softly. Yes. Next time, try letting me protect you again. I murmured. His grip tightened painfully. There won't be a next time, he said. I laughed one last time. That's what you said before. The sky shattered. Not literally. It just peeled away. The forest blurred. The sound stretched and warped like a broken recording. I felt myself falling backward, away from my body, away from him. The last thing I saw was Shinluchan pulling me into his arms, blood soaking into his dark robes, his expression completely undone. Then everything collapsed. I floated. No pain, no body, just awareness. The gray nothing returned. Separation detected. Critical failure. Union incomplete. I groaned. Wow, you really hate letting me rest, I muttered. The system did not respond. Instead, the space trembled. I felt something heavy pass through me. Grief. Not mine. His. A presence knelt somewhere beyond my perception, holding what remained of me. Again. I frowned. Again. I echoed softly, not knowing why the word hurt. The world reset. And somewhere behind me, Shinluchan was left holding my body, like he always was. Chapter 5 World 2 Ghost Realm. Dying, I discovered, is not a one-time experience. It's more like a recurring hobby the universe insists I take up. When I came back this time, the first thing I noticed was that I didn't have lungs. Because I tried to breathe and nothing happened. No air rushing in. No panic. No choking. Just nothing. The second thing I noticed was that I was translucent. That was alarming. I lifted my hand in front of my face. Pale. Faintly glowing. Edges blurred like I hadn't fully rendered yet. Huh, that's new, I said. My voice echoed strangely, like it was bouncing off something far away. The ground beneath me was black stone, polished smooth by countless footsteps. A cold wind drifted through, carrying the faint sound of crying, whispers, and something like chains dragging. I straightened slowly and looked around. We were in a city, or what passed for one. Tall, shadowy structures loomed on either side of a long road that stretched forward into mist. Lanterns burned with pale blue flames, illuminating lines of people moving in silence. Souls, all of them translucent like me. Some looked confused. Some looked terrified. Some looked numb in a way that scared me more than fear ever could. Okay. Either this is the afterlife, or I've wandered into a very committed cosplay event. I murmured. A bell rang. The sound rolled through the air, deep and resonant, vibrating through whatever passed for my bones now. The souls around me flinched and began moving faster. A voice echoed from somewhere ahead. Proceed to judgment. No lingering. A ghost realm. That checked out. I rubbed the back of my neck out of habit and frowned when my hand passed straight through. Right? No neck. Minor detail. I started walking, mostly because everyone else was, and standing still felt like a bad idea. As I moved, something tugged at me. Not physically. Emotionally. Like a thread pulling at my chest, drawing me forward. I followed it without question. That was when I saw him. He stood at the end of the road, at the top of a wide set of steps leading to a massive hall carved from dark stone. His robes were long and black, embroidered with faint silver patterns that looked like constellations. His hair was tied back neatly. His posture was straight. His expression was calm to the point of cold. He held a ledger in one hand and a brush in the other, eyes lowered as he read names aloud. Each soul that approached him knelt, trembling. He spoke. A name, a verdict, a direction, reincarnation, punishment, oblivion. His voice was even, controlled, empty of emotion, and I stopped walking, because even without a heartbeat, something in my chest clenched hard. Oh, I said softly. There it was again. That feeling. Recognition without memory. Familiarity without reason. He looked up. Our eyes met. And for just a second, something flickered in his gaze. Gone before I could be sure. He looked away immediately. I stared. Really stared. He looked different. Older somehow. Not in years, but in weight. Like someone who had stood in the same place for a very long time and watched far too many endings. I drifted closer, ignoring the way other souls avoided him like he was death itself. Which I supposed he sort of was. When it was my turn, I didn't kneel. I leaned forward, hands on my knees, studying him openly. Wow, you look like heartbreak, I said. The brush froze midair. The hall went silent. Several ghost guards turned sharply, glaring at me. Show respect, one of them snapped. I waved him off. Relax. I'm dead, not rude. The man in front of me slowly lifted his gaze again. Up close, the familiarity hit harder. His eyes were dark and deep, like they'd seen too much and kept all of it. Name, he said. Calm, flat, distant. Shinluchin. I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. Chi-Yu, professionally deceased. I replied cheerfully. Something tightened around his eyes. Cause of death. I thought about it. Protecting someone very handsome. The brush snapped. Ink splattered across the ledger. The guards stiffened. Shinluchin inhaled slowly, then exhaled. Cause of death? He repeated. Fatal blow, chest. Hurt a lot. Would not recommend. I said more gently. He stared at the page like it was trying to betray him. Age at death. I shrugged. Not long enough. Silence stretched. I tilted my head. Do you hate me already? Or is that just your face? The guard stepped forward angrily, but Shinluchin raised a hand. Leave us, he said. The guards hesitated. Judge. Leave. They withdrew. The hall emptied, leaving just the two of us and the echo of distant bells. I leaned closer, lowering my voice conspiratorially. So, have we met? I said, smiling. No, he replied immediately. Too immediately. I hummed. You're a terrible liar. He didn't react. I straightened and clasped my hands behind my back, rocking slightly on my heels. You know, I've got this weird feeling that I like you. I continued. That would be a mistake, he said. Probably. I like mistakes. I agreed. His gaze sharpened. You should cross the bridge. Which bridge? The bridge of forgetting. That name made something cold brush against me. Sounds unpleasant. It's necessary. For what? So you can move on. I frowned. Do I want to? Yes. I studied him carefully now. The way his fingers tightened around the brush. The tension coiled tight in his shoulders. The way he refused to look at me for too long. You don't sound convinced, I said quietly. His jaw clenched. You don't belong here, he said. Well, that's rude. I just got here. This realm is not meant for lingering souls. Then why do I feel like I've lingered before? That did it. His composure cracked. Just a little. Just enough. Enough, go, he said sharply. I smiled softly. You care. I don't. You do. You look at me like I'm about to disappear, I said, certain without knowing why. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, the cold distance was back, thicker than before. Go, Chi-Yu, before you make things worse, he said. I stepped past him, close enough that our sleeves brushed. He stiffened. I leaned in, lips near his ear. See you around, Your Honor, I murmured. Then I paused. If I forget you, you'll remember me, right? I added, unsure why the words mattered. His breath caught. He didn't answer. I walked toward the bridge. As I stepped onto it, I glanced back one last time. Shinluchin stood where I'd left him, staring after me like the world was ending again. And for some reason, even as mist rose around me and my thoughts began to blur, I smiled. Because I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever life came next, I was gonna like him all over again. Chapter 6, Judgment Interrupted by Flirting. I decided very quickly that I did not like the Ghost Realm's customer service. Specifically, I did not like the part where I was expected to quietly accept judgment, cross a bridge with an extremely ominous name, forget everything I was, and move on like none of it mattered. That felt rude. So I didn't do it. Instead of crossing the bridge of forgetting like a well-behaved wandering soul, I turned around halfway across, stepped neatly over the carved warning sigils, and walked straight back into the judgment hall. Several things happened at once. A bell rang sharply. A ghost guard shouted, "Hey!" Another one yelled, "Stop that soul!" And at the center of it all, Shen Luchin looked up from his ledger with the long-suffering expression of a man who had just realized the universe was personally targeting him. I waved. "Hi again, Your Honor." Absolute chaos. Ghost guards rushed toward me, weapons raised, chains clanking. I dodged them easily. Turns out being incorporeal comes with perks. One chain passed straight through my chest. I paused, looked down, then looked back up. "Rude. Chi Yu," Shen Luchin snapped. I grinned. "You remembered my name. That is not the point. Agree to disagree." He stood abruptly, robes flaring as he descended the steps toward me. His presence carried weight, authority, the kind that made other ghosts instinctively bow their heads. I did not. He stopped an arm's length away. "Why are you still here?" he demanded. I tapped my chin thoughtfully. "Well, let's see. Option 1. Cross the bridge, forget everything, start over. Option 2. Stay here and bother you." His jaw tightened. "I am not something for you to pass time with." "Oh, I don't know, you're tall, mysterious, emotionally unavailable. That's basically my type," I said lightly. The guards hovered uncertainly. Shen Luchin took a slow breath. "Leave us." Again. They hesitated, clearly torn between duty and self-preservation, then retreated. I beamed. "You keep doing that, people might start talking." "They already are," he replied flatly. "Excellent." He turned away from me and walked back toward his seat. I followed. Closely. Like very closely. He stopped. I almost bumped straight into his back. "Personal space," he said without turning. "I'm a ghost. Personal space is more of a suggestion," I replied. He resumed walking. "So did I." He sat. I leaned against the side of his desk, peering down at the ledger upside down. "Oh, what's this one do? Reincarnated as a chicken? That seems unfair," I said. "Stop reading that." "I can't read it, it's upside down," I said cheerfully. He ignored me and called the next soul forward. A trembling old man approached, knelt, and bowed repeatedly. Shun Liuchen's voice shifted back into that cold, judicial calm. "Name," the soul answered. "Crimes." The soul wept and confessed. I listened quietly for once. Shen Luchin listened too, expression unreadable. Then he delivered the verdict. Firm, unyielding. The soul was led away. I exhaled slowly. "That's heavy," I said. "Yes. Do you ever take breaks?" "No." I frowned. "That's unhealthy." He didn't respond. The next soul stepped forward. I watched a few more judgments in silence. Each one chipped away at the carefully distant image I'd formed of him. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't careless. He was precise. And tired. So tired. When there was a lull, I slid closer again. "Hey, how long have you been doing this?" I said softly. "Too long." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you need." I hummed. "You know, in life, people usually retire from jobs that make them look this miserable." "I am not miserable." I raised an eyebrow. He didn't look at me. I smiled anyway. From that moment on, I made myself a fixture. I followed him everywhere. Judgment Hall? I leaned against pillars and offered commentary. Hall of Records? I floated upside down and asked what would happen if someone forged their own karma. Patrol through the city? I drifted beside him and waved at startled souls. Everywhere we went, I called him the same thing. "Your Honor." "Stop calling me that," he said for the 5th time that day. "But it suits you, very dignified, very stern, very kissable," I replied. He tripped. Actually tripped. His foot caught on the edge of a step, and he had to steady himself with a sharp breath. I stared. Did I just make a ghost judge stumble? He straightened slowly, ears faintly red. You are disrupting the order of this realm. I improve everything I touch. That is demonstrably untrue. Name one thing. This. I laughed. Okay, fair. We paused on a bridge overlooking the city. Souls drifted below like pale lights. He rested his hands on the railing, staring out. I joined him, mirroring the posture. For a moment, neither of us spoke. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. You keep saying that. And you keep ignoring it. I'm very consistent. He turned his head slightly, finally looking at me properly. His gaze lingered longer than before. Long enough for something dangerous to settle between us. You don't remember anything, he said. Nope. And yet you act like this. Like what? Like we are. He stopped himself. I waited. Familiar, he finished. I smiled gently. Maybe we are. No, we aren't, he said firmly. Then why do you keep letting me stay? Silence. The bells rang in the distance. You make it difficult, he said at last. I brightened. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day. He huffed despite himself. There it was. A reaction. Small. Barely there. But real. I leaned closer. See? You're human under all that doom and judgment. I am not human. Semantics. I studied his profile. You look like someone who's lost something important and never got it back, I said thoughtfully. His hand tightened on the railing. That is none of your concern. Everything about you feels like my concern, I replied honestly. That made him turn fully toward me. His expression was sharp. Warning. You should cross the bridge before this becomes harder, he said. For who? For you. I tilted my head. You're lying again. He closed his eyes. Just for a second. When he opened them, the distance was back. But it was thinner now. Strained. Chi-Yu, if you stay, you will forget, he said quietly. I shrugged. I forget lots of things. This will not be like that. So you will forget me. I smiled. Then I'll just meet you again. You don't seem hard to find, I said easily. Something in his expression broke. Not dramatically, just softly, like a crack spreading through ice. You say that like it doesn't hurt, he whispered. I frowned. Does it? He didn't answer. I reached out without thinking. My fingers passed through his sleeve, brushing cold air. Right. Ghosts. Still, he froze. I pulled my hand back. Sorry. He shook his head. No. We stood there, close but not touching, separated by more than just space. Eventually, he turned away. I have work, he said. Of course you do, Your Honor. He didn't correct me this time, and that felt like a victory. Chapter 7, The Kiss at the Bridge of Forgetting. The Bridge of Forgetting was exactly as dramatic as it sounded. Long, arched, carved from pale stone that glowed faintly in the mist. Strange runes lined the railings, pulsing softly like a slow heartbeat. Beneath it flowed a river that wasn't water, not really. It shimmered like liquid moonlight, thick with memories that didn't belong to anyone anymore. Standing at the edge of it made my head ache. Not pain exactly, more like pressure. Like my thoughts were being gently but firmly told to pack their bags. This place has terrible vibes, I muttered. Behind me, footsteps stopped. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. You didn't have to follow me, I said lightly. Yes, I did. Oh? Your Honor, breaking protocol again, I teased. He ignored that. You cannot stay. This is the last point before judgment becomes irreversible, he said. Everything here sounds irreversible. You really know how to sell a realm, I said. This is not a joke. I softened my smile. I know. The mist curled around our feet. The bridge hummed faintly, responding to my presence. It wanted me. That realization sat strangely calm in my chest. So, this is it, huh? I said, rocking back on my heels. He didn't answer. I watched him for a moment, really watched him. There was something about him that made silence feel heavy instead of empty. like there were words piled up behind his ribs with nowhere to go. "Hey, can I ask you something?" I said gently. His eyes flicked up. "You've never waited for permission before." "True, but this one feels important," I admitted. He hesitated. "Ask." I took a small step closer. The air between us felt tight, like a held breath. "Have we met?" I asked. The question came out quieter than I expected. Not playful, not teasing, just honest. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer at all. Then he said, "No." The word landed too fast, too clean, too rehearsed. I studied his face. His eyes didn't waver, but his breathing did. Just slightly. "You're lying," I said softly. "No," he replied. "You are," I insisted, not accusing, just stating a fact. "I don't remember you. I know that. But I recognize you anyway." He said nothing. I smiled sadly. "That doesn't happen for no reason. This recognition you feel is meaningless. Instinct. Residual emotion. It will fade." He said, voice tight, "Will it?" I asked. "Yes." "Then why do you look like you're about to drown?" That broke something. His composure slipped just for a second, and I saw it clearly. Grief. Raw. Old. Heavy. Like he'd been carrying it alone for far too long. My chest tightened. "I don't know what I forgot, but I know this much," I said. I stepped closer again. He didn't move away. "I like you, and that feels important," I said simply. "Chi-you." I reached out and took his sleeve. This time, my fingers didn't pass through. Ghost realm rules were weird like that. His breath hitched sharply. "Don't," he said. "Why?" "Because if you do this, you will make it harder." He whispered. "For who?" "For me." I tilted my head. "That sounds like a you problem." Despite himself, a quiet, broken sound escaped his throat. Almost a laugh. Almost a sob. I smiled at him, heart aching for reasons I still couldn't name. "Hey, look at me," I said. He did. His eyes were dark and shining now, like he was standing at the edge of something dangerous. "I don't know what we were, friends, enemies, lovers, something worse, something better," I continued. He closed his eyes. "But whatever it was, you loved me," I said, voice soft. His breath shattered. I didn't wait for confirmation. I leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. Just a gentle press of lips against his, testing, curious. Like I was learning the shape of something familiar all over again. For a heartbeat, he didn't move. Then his hand came up, fingers threading into my hair with desperate precision, and he kissed me back. Harder, deeper, like he was afraid this was the last solid thing in the universe. His lips trembled against mine. His grip tightened, pulling me closer, like if he let go I would already be gone. The world faded. The bridge, the mist, the river below. There was only the kiss, and the overwhelming sense that this wasn't new. This was memory made flesh. When we finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. His breathing was uneven. "Don't forget me," he whispered. I smiled. "I probably will. I'm terrible with names, faces, lifetimes," I said honestly. His hand shook. "But I think I'll always feel this," I added, touching his chest lightly. Something slid down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. I stepped back slowly. The bridge pulsed brighter, responding to my movement. "This is where I go, right?" I asked. "Yes." "You're not coming?" "I can't." I nodded. "That figures." I turned, then paused, glancing back one last time. "Shin Luchin," I said. He looked up instantly. "Next time we meet, try smiling sooner," I said with a grin. His lips curved faintly, painfully. "I'll try." I stepped onto the bridge. The moment my foot touched the stone, the world lurched. Memories tugged at me like threads being pulled loose. My chest tightened. Something important was slipping. I walked forward anyway. Each step made my thoughts blur. Faces faded. Feelings dulled. But right before everything vanished completely, one thought stayed stubbornly bright. I loved him. I didn't know who him was anymore, but the feeling remained. Warm, certain. Then the bridge swallowed the rest. And I forgot. Chapter 8, World 3, Modern Entertainment Industry. The first thing I learned in this life was that fame smells like coffee and anxiety. The second thing I learned was that my phone would not stop vibrating. I woke up to it buzzing against my cheek, my face half buried in a pillow that cost more than my rent from my last life. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. Somewhere outside, a city hummed. Cars, voices, life moving too fast. I squinted at the ceiling. Why do I feel hungover if I don't remember drinking? My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I groaned, rolled onto my back, and fumbled for it. 99 plus unread messages. That kind of life. I scrolled blindly. Chiyu, where are you? You're trending. Do not open social media. Your manager is on the way. Don't say anything stupid. I frowned. Rude. That narrows my options. A memory slid into place, smooth and practiced, like it had always been there. Chiyu, 24, actor, recently popular for playing a morally gray second male lead in a hit drama. Known for good looks, sharp tongue, and a habit of saying the wrong thing on camera and getting away with it because people found it charming. So this was my new flavor of existence. Before I could process further, the doorbell rang. Once, twice, then a knock. Firm, controlled, impatient, but polite enough to pretend otherwise. Something in my chest tightened. I sat up. The knock came again. I swung my legs off the bed, hair a mess, and shuffled toward the door. When I opened it, there it was. That feeling, like my soul leaned forward before my brain caught up. He stood in the hallway wearing a dark coat over a crisp shirt, tablet tucked under one arm, phone in the other hand. His hair was shorter this time, neat, professional. His expression was calm, restrained, familiar in a way that made my pulse stutter. Shinluchin. I didn't know how I knew his name, but I did. Good morning, you're awake. That's a relief, he said coolly. I stared at him for a full 3 seconds too long. He noticed. Of course he did. Is there a problem? He asked. I smiled. Nope. Just thinking my manager is unfairly attractive, I said. His jaw tightened. I'm here to discuss the situation, not to be flirted with, he said flatly. Multitasking exists, I replied. He stepped past me into the apartment without waiting for permission, already scrolling through his phone. Do you know what happened last night? He asked. I closed the door and leaned against it, watching him. I'm guessing either I saved a cat or ruined my career. You were photographed leaving a hotel at 2 a.m. with another actor, one who is currently rumored to be in a relationship, he said. I blinked. Was I? Yes. Was the cat okay? He shot me a look. This is serious. I'm alive. That's usually a good sign, I said cheerfully. You are trending for the wrong reasons again, he replied. Consistency is important. He finally looked at me properly. Really looked. Our eyes met. And there it was again. That split second where his composure slipped. Just barely. Then the walls went back up. Get dressed, we're going to the studio. We need to control the narrative, he said. I tilted my head. Are we? Yes. Together? Yes. Excellent. I love forced proximity, I said. He did not react. Professionally impressive. Emotionally suspicious. The car ride was quiet. Not awkward quiet. Tense quiet. The kind where you could tell one person had 100 things they weren't saying, and the other person was deciding whether poking that would be fun or dangerous. I chose fun. So, how long have you been my manager? I asked, buckling my seatbelt. 3 years. Oh, long-term relationship, I said. This is not a relationship. Wow, already shutting me down. He focused on his tablet. You are my client. Painful. You are reckless. Debatable. You flirt with anything that breathes. Objectively false. I also flirt with things that don't, I said. He stopped scrolling. You need to stop talking. I smiled out the window. The city blurred past. Billboards with my face on them flashed by. and I felt an odd sense of distance from it all, like I was wearing someone else's life. Yet the longer I sat beside him, the more settled I felt. Like this seat was where I always ended up. The studio was chaos. Staff whispering. PR teams rushing. Phones ringing. The moment we stepped inside, Shun Liuchen's entire demeanor shifted. Commands. Decisions. Calm authority. He was good at this. Too good. I watched him work, fielding questions, shutting down rumors, assigning tasks. Every movement precise. Controlled. Like a man who didn't allow himself mistakes. Or attachments. Which was unfortunate because I was very attached already. During a break, I leaned against the wall beside him. "You don't smile much," I observed. "I'm working." "You're allowed to smile while working." "No, I'm not." "That's tragic." He ignored me. The system chose that moment to interfere. I didn't hear its voice. I felt it. A sudden shift. Phones lighting up. Murmurs spreading. Shun Liuchen's phone buzzed nonstop. He checked it once, then twice, then stiffened. "What?" I asked. "A new post, someone leaked edited photos. It looks like you're intimate," he said slowly. I whistled. "I don't remember being that productive." "This is bad, we need to respond immediately," he said. "Forced proximity?" I guessed. "Yes." "Late nights?" "Yes." I grinned. "Romantic." He finally snapped. "Chi-yu." "Yes." "Shin Luchin?" "You need to take this seriously." I studied his face. The tension. The tightness around his eyes. "You care," I said. "Of course I do. This is my job," he replied sharply. "Is that all?" He hesitated. "Just for a heartbeat." "Yes." I smiled anyway. We stayed at the studio until well past midnight. Statements drafted. Interviews planned. Damage controlled. By the time we finally left, the city was quiet. We rode the elevator down alone. The hum of cables. The soft ding of passing floors. I leaned against the wall. "You're very good at catching me when I fall," I said casually. He didn't look at me. "I make sure you don't fall in the first place." "That's not true, I fall all the time," I replied. He glanced at me then. "And yet, you always stand back up," he said quietly. Something about the way he said it made my chest ache. We stepped out into the cool night air. As we walked to the car, I spoke without thinking. "Have we met before?" He stopped, slowly turned to face me. The streetlight cast shadows across his face. "No," he said. The word felt familiar. Rehearsed. I smiled, unconvinced. "Funny. You feel like someone I'd fall for every time," I said. His expression didn't change, but his hands clenched at his sides. "Get in the car, it's late," he said softly. I obeyed. For now. The system hummed, satisfied. Forced together. Again. And I had no idea why, but I was already certain of one thing. No matter the world, I was going to make him look at me like he meant it. Chapter 9, The Kiss Behind the Stage. Fame is strange. You stand under lights so bright you can't see the audience, but you can feel thousands of people looking at you anyway. Tonight was a live recording. Variety show. Games, interviews, staged laughter. I smiled until my cheeks hurt. Flirted with the hosts. Pretended I wasn't exhausted. The whole time I knew exactly where he was. Side stage. Arms folded. Watching. Shin Luchin had mastered the art of looking like he wasn't paying attention while noticing everything. I messed up a line on purpose just to see if he'd react. He did. Tiny shift. A faint frown. Worth it. By the time filming ended, my voice was hoarse and my head buzzed from the noise. Staff rushed around tearing down props. Other guests laughed loudly as they left. Cameras clicked off one by one. I stepped off stage and grabbed a bottle of water. He was already walking toward me. "Good job," he said, professional as always. "High praise. You didn't even criticize me," I replied. "You were on script." "I'm always on script. It's just a script no one else can see." He didn't smile, but his gaze lingered on my face a little too long. That was enough. People brushed past us, busy, distracted. The hallway behind the stage was dim, lit only by emergency lights and the glow from half-closed dressing room doors. I didn't think. I grabbed his wrist and pulled. "Chi-yu." "Shoo," I said, already dragging him into the darker side corridor used for equipment storage. We stumbled inside. The door swung halfway shut behind us, leaving us in a narrow strip of shadow and quiet. He yanked his hand back. "What are you doing?" he demanded in a low voice. I stepped closer, close enough that he had to lean back slightly to maintain distance. "Stop pretending you don't look at me," I said. His eyes sharpened. "This is inappropriate. You look at me like I'm about to disappear on stage, in meetings, in the car. Every time you think I won't notice." I continued. "You're imagining things." "No, I'm not," I said softly. Silence filled the corridor. Distant voices echoed from the main hall. But in here, it felt like the world had narrowed to just us. He exhaled slowly. "You are tired," he said. "You're reading too much into." I stepped forward again, backing him lightly against the wall. His breath caught. "Then prove me wrong," I said. He didn't move away, didn't push me back, didn't do anything except look at me with that same expression he'd been trying to hide for weeks, like he was holding back a flood with both hands. "Chi-yu, don't do this," he said quietly. "Why not?" "Because you don't understand what you're asking." "Then explain it to me." "I can't." I smiled faintly. "You never can." That did something to him. His composure cracked just enough for me to see the strain underneath. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe the lights. Maybe the exhaustion. Maybe the way he said my name like it hurt. I kissed him. Not careful. Not teasing like before. It was messy. Sudden. My hand sliding into his coat to grab the fabric and pull him closer so he couldn't step away even if he wanted to. For a split second, he froze. Then he kissed me back. Hard. Like he'd been denying himself this for far too long. His hand came up to the side of my face, fingers firm, thumb brushing my cheek as if making sure I was real. Our breaths tangled, uneven and sharp. I could feel his control slipping. Not dramatically, but enough. He kissed like a man who had memorized this and was finally allowed to do it again. My mind went hazy. I forgot about the show, the staff, the cameras, everything outside this narrow dark space. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I laughed softly. "See? You do look at me," I murmured. He rested his forehead briefly against mine, eyes closed. And then he said it, so quietly I almost missed it. "I've loved you longer than you know." "That's hot." His eyes snapped open. I laughed, still catching my breath. "What?" That's a very intense line to drop on someone in a hallway. He stared at me like he'd said too much, like the words had escaped without permission. I studied him. "You weren't joking," I realized. "No." Something shifted in my chest. Not fear, not confusion, just recognition, like hearing a sentence I didn't remember but still understood. "How long?" I asked. He shook his head. "You wouldn't believe me. Try me." "Chi-yu." "Try me," I repeated. He searched my face. Then, very quietly, "Longer than this life." I smiled slowly. "I knew it," I said. He frowned. "You did. Yeah, you've had this look since the first day we met. Like you were waiting for me to catch up," I replied. His hand dropped from my face. "You don't remember anything," he said. "Nope. And you still say things like that. Maybe I'm just naturally insightful." He huffed a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. I leaned back slightly but didn't step away. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "Regret what?" "Loving me." He didn't hesitate. "No." I smiled. "Good. Because I'm definitely going to keep making it worse for you," I said. Somewhere down the hall, someone called my name. Reality crept back in. I stepped away reluctantly. He straightened his coat, mask of professionalism sliding back into place. But his eyes were still soft, still shaken. I pointed at him as I walked backward toward the light. "We're not done with this conversation." He nodded once. "I know." And I had the strange, unshakable feeling that he really, really did. Chapter 10. The system punishes separation. I woke up that morning thinking, today's going to be peaceful. Famous last words. The first clue that I was wrong was the text from my manager. Again, Shinluchin, we need to talk. Now, simple, cold, direct. Unusual for him? Hardly. He could send a text like that and make it feel like a judicial order from some cosmic court. I blinked at the screen. Huh. I wonder what I did this time. I muttered. The truth? I hadn't done anything. Not really. But in my line of work, nothing was dangerously subjective. Fame and I had a long, complicated relationship. I flirted with the concept of chaos almost daily. I stretched, yawned, and naturally thought, well, let's have a little fun first. I posted a picture on my social media. Totally innocuous. Really, me, smiling, sunglasses, tongue slightly out. Caption, maybe I should go on a date tonight. Thoughts. I chuckled at my own audacity. 30 seconds later, everything started breaking. The cafe I had scheduled an appearance at had its coffee machine explode. Minor, but dramatic. Very visible on live streaming. The car Shinluchin had sent to pick me up stalled in the middle of the boulevard. Traffic chaos. A drone filming my live shoot crashed, narrowly missing the camera crew. I stared at my phone. That's a lot of coincidences, I muttered. The system didn't text me. Not yet, but I could feel it humming under the surface. The world was shaking. Not literally, but perceptibly. Like reality itself was twitching. Annoyed with me, Shinluchin showed up 15 minutes late, which, for him, meant the entire city probably thought he had teleported in just to glare at me. His coat was perfectly straight, his shoes spotless, his expression like the universe had personally insulted him. You, he said, voice tight. Me, I confirmed. You were joking about dating someone else. I prefer to call it experimenting with social interaction. Why? Jealous? I asked brightly. His jaw clenched. Do you have any idea what this causes? I raised my eyebrows. A little chaos? Slight inconvenience for mortals? That kind of thing. Accidents, delays, scandals, people hurt. He said, voice low, precise. I squinted at him. You mean? He nodded sharply. The system detected deviation. Oh, I said slowly, letting the word roll on my tongue. Devi what? Deviation, correction is underway. He repeated. The lights flickered. A fan fell in the studio. One of my co-stars screamed. Paperwork literally flew out of the hands of the production assistants. My coffee fell over the keyboard. Ah, I said, dodging flying paper like it was part of a new immersive stage effect. The system doesn't like me flirting outside established parameters. He looked at me like he was measuring whether I deserved a beating or an emotional lecture. You always test the limits. That's my specialty, professional hazard, unfortunately, I said. Shinluchin exhaled slowly. I could see the faintest tremor in his fingers as he adjusted his glasses. Normally, the man could steady a hurricane. Right now, he looked a human, vulnerable, concerned. Chi-Yu, stop, he said, almost pleading. Stop what? Dating someone else? Making the world tilt on its axis? Looking good while doing it? I asked innocently, sidestepping a flying clipboard. You will not survive this world if you continue testing it, he said. I laughed, dodging another falling light fixture. Oh, I'll survive. Always do. He stared. That dark, intense stare of his, the one that always saw right through me. Through my jokes, my bravado, my carefully constructed mask. Always? He repeated, almost to himself. Yes, I'm like a cat. 9 lives. Only mine happened to be spectacularly reckless. I said confidently. A phone rang nearby. Another studio crew member screamed. Something crashed. Then, an almost imperceptible vibration under my feet. The world groaned. Chi-Yu, I cannot protect you from this. Only the system decides now. Shinluchin hissed, voice low. I shrugged. I'll take my chances. He exhaled. The air around him shimmered faintly, like he was bracing against something massive. And then it hit. Reality tilted, hiccuped, wavered. A door slammed shut across the hallway. A light exploded above us, sparking. The building shook just slightly, enough to make us stumble. I landed against a wall. Shun Liuchen's hand grabbed my arm immediately. "You're insane," he muttered. "Maybe, but apparently irresistible," I said cheerfully. He ignored me, scanning the hall. Chaos raged around us. Production assistants scrambled. Phones buzzed nonstop. Monitors flickered. And through it all, I grinned. Deviation detected. Correcting. I blinked. Yep, that was the system. Still alive, still meddling. Still obsessed. He didn't look at me. Not really. Not yet. His focus was sharp. Professional. Protective. But I could feel the tension radiating off him in waves. "You will survive this," he said slowly, almost like a vow. "And you?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "You okay with all this chaos?" His jaw tightened. "I don't matter." I frowned. "Excuse me? You survive. That's all that counts, the rest isn't relevant," he said simply. I blinked. My mouth opened, then closed. I didn't know what to say, because he wasn't lying, but he wasn't fully telling the truth either. The weight behind his words pressed down on me like gravity. I grinned anyway. "Well, lucky me. I do survive spectacularly. Chaos seems to like me." He didn't answer. He just kept scanning the room, alert, steady, constant. My guardian, my manager, my unknowable, infuriating constant. And I realized, as the world around us continued to unravel slightly, that no matter how much the system wanted to punish separation, no matter how many accidents or delays it forced, no matter how precarious life or undeath tried to be, I would survive, because that was the point. And if Shin Liuchen's presence meant anything, it meant this. Even if the world tried to tear us apart, even if rules and systems and reality itself decided otherwise, I would find a way back to him. For now, chaos raged. The studio burned with minor disasters. Social media screamed with misinformation, and I laughed through it all. "Your Honor, I think the system's mad at me again," I said lightly, ducking a falling light stand. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "Chi-Yu, relax," I said with a grin. "I always survive. You should know that by now." And he didn't correct me. Not today. Not while I was still alive. Not while the chaos. And I continued. Chapter 11, World 4, Post-Apocalyptic Cultivation. I didn't exactly wake up this time. More like I unclogged my eyes from a cloud of dust, bone, and general despair. The first thing I noticed, everything was dead, or almost dead. Buildings caved in, streets cracked like dried riverbeds, and a thick, gray sky pressed down on me like it wanted to swallow the world whole. The second thing I noticed, monsters, big ones, sharp teeth, glowing eyes, limbs that defied logic and anatomy. I dodged the first one by literally rolling into a pile of rubble. My life flashed briefly before my eyes. Honestly, I was only partially sure I wanted it back. And the third thing? I smelled him. Even from across the ruined square, the faint scent of incense and sharp earth reached me. It was familiar, comforting, dangerous, all at once. I turned. There he was, Shin Liuchen. Or well, I didn't know if he was him yet, but the air around him felt like a cord pulling at me. He stood atop a pile of rubble like a warlord surveying his kingdom. His clothes were torn, blackened at the edges from spiritual fire. His hair was longer this time, tied back in a warrior's knot. The scars on his face didn't hide anything. They announced experience, endurance, and 1,000 tiny deaths survived. And yet, somehow, he looked like the only thing worth surviving for. I blinked. "Wow, you look like heartbreak that fought a war and won," I muttered. He glanced at me once. Eyes sharp, cold, calculated, not unfriendly. "Not yet." I swallowed. My chest tightened. "I like you already. That wasn't a joke." He didn't respond. Not immediately. But something in the set of his shoulders shifted. A subtle acknowledgement. like the world had given him 1 second to register me, and he chose to keep breathing anyway. I took another step forward. The rubble crunched beneath my boots. Hi, Chiyu. I am me. Probably. Mostly. Can you confirm? His eyes narrowed. Slightly. Just enough. I am Shinluchin, he said, voice low, measured. You do not belong here. I shrugged. You're not exactly my HR department, are you? He didn't smile. Not even a twitch. That was fine. It made him look more terrifying, more necessary, more magnetic. I frowned. Also, monsters. Everywhere. Isn't there a safer place? There isn't, he said. I grinned. Lucky me. He didn't respond. Not in words, at least. But the way his eyes flicked over me, calculating my strength, my skills, my potential, made my stomach tighten. This was it. Post-apocalyptic cultivation. No system interference. Yet, no cameras, no stage lights. Just me. Just him. And the constant hum of danger. I didn't hesitate. I fell in love instantly. Again. Not the quiet, hesitant kind. The kind that hit like a lightning bolt through your chest. Burning, electrifying, insane. And I didn't care that my veins had been broken spiritually. Didn't care that the air tasted like ash. Didn't care about the monsters. Your Honor, I asked brightly because old habits die hard. He froze. Then slowly, carefully, his gaze fixed on me. Do not call me that. Too late, I said. Also, is it weird that I feel like I've known you before? He exhaled. Not a laugh. Not a sigh. Something in between. Like the sound the world makes when it finally admits there's a problem it can't solve. You have, he said quietly. I blinked. Do you now? Yes. The monsters growled in the distance. Shadows flickered across the rubble-strewn land. I stepped closer. Good. Because I was thinking of introducing myself properly. Do not. Too late, I said again. Also, I added, voice lowering slightly. You're very attractive for someone who just told me not to approach. His jaw tightened. That was a good sign. Or terrifying. I hadn't decided which. Why are you here? I asked, genuinely curious. He didn't answer immediately. He just scanned the horizon. His eyes were sharp, calculating. Every step, every move perfectly measured. Survival instincts turned into art. Finally, he spoke. I lead a group. They trust me. You are unprepared. That's the understatement of the millennium. But hey, I'm flexible, I said cheerfully. He looked at me like he was weighing whether to throw me into a monster pit or into his arms. I grinned. If it's the latter, I won't complain. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise? Amusement? Recognition? I didn't know, but I liked it. I stepped forward again. Closer this time. The distance between us shrank, and the air seemed to hum. I think we're going to be spending a lot of time together, I said. He didn't deny it. Not verbally, but he made a small, almost imperceptible nod toward the ruined horizon. Good, because I plan to annoy you until you either smile or kill me, preferably the first. I said, heart thudding. Your presence is reckless and dangerous, he said. I grinned wider. That's my specialty. The monsters roared in the distance. A shadowed figure lunged across the debris. I didn't flinch, didn't even step back, because I had already decided. No matter the world, no matter the danger, no matter how many times I had to start over, I was going to fall in love with him again. Immediately, fully, recklessly, and somehow in this ruined world, that felt like the only sane choice. Chapter 12, The Kiss in the Ruins. The wind stank of ash and blood, a constant reminder that the world was broken. I crouched behind the crumbling wall of what used to be a library. Shelves now lay shattered, books scattered like dead leaves. Monsters prowled the streets, eyes glowing with unnatural hunger, growling like the world had swallowed every single dog and left only teeth and malice. And there he was, Shinluchin, my impossible, infuriating, breathtaking Shinluchin. He stood atop a mound of rubble, black robes torn, staff glowing faintly with his cultivation energy. His expression was calm, Unreadable. Deadly. Just as he always was. But the closer I looked, the more I realized he wasn't just calculating our enemies. He was calculating me. I swallowed hard. Heart hammering. He turned slightly, eyes flicking toward me. That look. That look that made my chest tighten like I'd swallowed ice. "Chi-Yu, stay behind," he said, voice flat but laced with something I couldn't name. I laughed softly, though it came out ragged. "And miss this fight? Please, you've got enough rules in your life. Let me break a few of my own." His jaw tightened. "You're reckless." "I know. And you're irresistible." I grinned. He didn't answer. He never did. Not fully. But there was a shift. Just a hair's breadth of hesitation. That was all I needed. The monsters lunged at the group. I could hear the battle erupt. Shouts, roars, the crackle of energy. Shinluchin moved like water, precise, beautiful, terrifying. Every swing of his staff, every flick of his hand, perfectly controlled. I ducked lower behind the wall, my own makeshift spear in hand. My veins still felt broken from this world. My spiritual energy barely enough to keep me upright. But I didn't hesitate. I wasn't here to survive quietly. I was here for him. The first wave of monsters surged, and I saw him glance toward me, brief, fleeting, and my stomach flipped. He'd been watching me even when he couldn't, even when he shouldn't. I pushed off the wall, sprinting across the open square as one of the larger beasts lunged toward him. "Wait!" he shouted. Too late. I jumped, plunging my spear into the beast's side. The scream echoed like thunder. I rolled to the ground, breath ragged. And that's when I saw him, his eyes wide, a mixture of shock, relief, and something I could not name. I scrambled toward him, boots skidding on broken stone, ignoring the smaller monsters circling like vultures. He turned to face me fully. "Chi-Yu." I didn't answer. I grabbed his shoulders, pulled him down toward me. The world slowed. I pressed my lips to his. No teasing, no hesitation, no calculation, just a desperate, chaotic kiss. "Just in case," I whispered against his mouth. He froze for a heartbeat. Then his hands came up, gripping my back, my shoulders, my hair. He kissed me back. Harder, slower, controlled, but beneath it, frantic. Like he had been holding himself back for a lifetime and finally couldn't. Our breaths mingled. My heart pounded against my ribs so loud I thought he could hear it. The monsters didn't exist. The ruined world didn't exist. The only thing that mattered was him, and me, and this fleeting moment of raw connection before the chaos swallowed us again. We broke apart only slightly, foreheads pressed together, his breath heavy, ragged, just like mine. Eyes closed. "This life too," he murmured. I blinked at him. His eyes opened slowly, dark, deep, and soft, vulnerable, almost human. I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Yeah, this life too," I said, voice low. He didn't answer verbally, just leaned his forehead against mine again, grounding me. Solid, real, alive. And for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, we could survive this world together. Maybe it didn't matter that monsters lurked. Maybe it didn't matter that my veins were broken, that the sky was gray, that everything had been reduced to ash. Because as long as he was here, breathing, alive, steady, I could face it all. The monsters surged again, snapping me back into reality. I pushed off him, spinning to face the nearest threat. He was beside me instantly, precise, lethal, beautiful. We fought as one. Not words, not teasing, not flirting. Just action. Breathless, fluid, devastating. And every time I glanced at him, every time our hands brushed while dispatching the creatures, I felt it. That spark, that pull, that insane, reckless, overwhelming love that had burned across lives and worlds. I laughed, dodging a swipe from a clawed beast. "You know, we make a great team," I said breathlessly. His eyes flicked to mine, sharp but amused. "Reckless," he said. "Yes, but also very, very hot," I admitted. He didn't reply, just caught my wrist mid-swing, redirected my energy, and sent the creature flying with a precise strike. And I realized something important. No matter the world, no matter the danger, no matter how many times the universe tried to tear us apart, we were inevitable. And right here, in the ruins, surrounded by monsters and death, I fell in love again. Fierce, reckless, absolute. Because even a ruined world couldn't touch us when we had each other. I caught my breath, glanced at him again, and smiled. Just in case, I whispered once more. He pressed his forehead to mine, and for a heartbeat, nothing else mattered. This life too, he repeated, softer this time. Yes, every life, I said. Chapter 13, The One Who Remembers Breaks. I have a theory. Dying is inconvenient, but waking up is worse. Because when you wake up, you have to pretend you weren't just somewhere else. You have to accept a new sky, a new body, a new set of problems, and act like this is normal. I opened my eyes to a ceiling I didn't recognize. Wooden beams, soft light, the faint smell of herbs and smoke. My first thought was, well, not dead then. My second thought was, I feel like I forgot something important, which apparently is my personality at this point. I sat up too fast. My head spun. Someone nearby dropped a bowl. Chi Yu. I blinked toward the voice, and there he was. Shin Luchin. Same face, different clothes, different world. Same eyes. Those eyes. They were locked onto me like I had just come back from the dead, and he wasn't sure whether to be relieved or furious about it. Hi, I croaked. You look familiar. Do we? Don't, he said. The word came out sharp. Too sharp. I froze. He stood a few steps away from the bed, hands clenched at his sides. His posture was perfect, controlled like always, but his breathing was not. It was uneven, ragged, like he had run here, like he had been waiting. I tilted my head. Are you okay? He laughed. It was the worst sound I had ever heard. Not amused, not sarcastic, not dry, broken. Am I okay? He repeated softly. I frowned. That's usually how conversations work, yes. He took one step toward me, then another, and I realized something was very, very wrong. Not with the world. With him. You died, he said. Okay. That does happen sometimes. I replied carefully. You died in my arms. I blinked. We've met before then? He didn't answer that. Instead, he asked, very quietly, do you remember me? I searched my mind. Nothing. Just a faint, uncomfortable sense of déjà vu that I couldn't place. I smiled apologetically. I feel like I should. But no. Something in his face cracked. Not dramatically, not loudly, but unmistakably, like glass finally giving in after too many hairline fractures. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were darker than I had ever seen. Why? Do you keep forgetting me? He asked, voice shaking. I blinked. I didn't know how to answer that, because I didn't even know what that was. I what? Why? Do you keep forgetting me? He repeated, louder now, stepping closer to the bed. I stared at him. He wasn't calm. He wasn't controlled. He wasn't the quiet, steady presence I was used to. He looked desperate, angry, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. You sound like someone I always choose, I said slowly, trying to make sense of this. The room went silent, completely silent. Even the air felt like it had stopped moving. He froze. His eyes widened slightly, and I didn't know why that sentence felt so natural coming out of my mouth. I didn't plan to say it. It just felt true. He swallowed hard. You do. I tilted my head. Do what? Choose me. I smiled faintly. Well, you're very intense. Hard to miss. This isn't a joke, he snapped. I raised both hands. Okay, not joking. Serious face. See? He didn't smile, didn't soften, didn't do anything except stare at me like he was trying to decide whether to shake me or hold me. You die, you wake up. You look at me like we're strangers. And then you fall in love with me again like it's the first time. He said. I blinked. That's efficient? I offered. He made a strangled sound that might have been a laugh if it hadn't been so close to breaking. You don't remember the first kiss, he said. I swallowed. You don't remember the second. My chest tightened. You don't remember the bridge. Something in my mind flickered. A bridge. Fog. A figure in the distance. Gone. You don't remember promising me that this life too would be the same. I stared at him. My heart was beating too fast. You sound like you've been carrying this alone, I said quietly. I have, he said. The words dropped between us like stones. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what to say, because I didn't remember, and that felt suddenly horribly unfair. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it, not for something I knew I did, but for something I could feel had hurt him a long time ago. He laughed again, soft, bitter. You always say that too. I blinked. I do. Yes. I rubbed my face. Okay, this is getting unsettling. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in his hands. I am so tired, Chiyu, he whispered. That broke me a little, because Shinluchin didn't look like someone who ever admitted to being tired. I don't know what I did, but I feel like I owe you something, I said softly. You owe me nothing, you never did, he said immediately. Then why do you sound like you're about to cry? He didn't answer. He just looked at me, and for the first time since I met him, since this world started, since my memory started, I saw it, the weight, centuries of it, sitting behind his eyes, and I didn't know why, but I reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Hey, you're not alone right now, I said gently. His breath hitched, and that's when it happened. System pause detected. The air hummed, not loudly, not visibly, but I felt it, like reality itself had leaned in to listen. Shinluchin felt it too. His eyes flicked slightly, like he heard something I didn't. I squeezed his sleeve tighter. I don't remember, I said, but I feel like, if I had to choose someone again. He didn't breathe. I'd pick you. Silence. Absolute silence. And in that silence, Shinluchin finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. He stepped forward and pulled me into his arms like he was afraid I would disappear if he didn't. Chapter 14. The truth he chose to carry. He was holding me like I was something fragile. Not tight enough to hurt. Not loose enough to let go. Just careful. Like he'd learned the exact amount of pressure required to keep me in this world. My face was pressed against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat. It wasn't racing. It wasn't calm either. It sounded like someone who had been steady for far too long and was only now realizing how tired he was. I pulled back slightly. Hey, you're squeezing me like I'm about to vanish. His arms tightened for half a second, then loosened. I'm sorry. That alone told me everything was wrong. Shinluchin didn't apologize unless something had already broken. I looked up at him. His eyes were red around the edges. Not from crying, from holding something back. For the record, if I was going to disappear, I wouldn't do it in the middle of a conversation. That's rude. He didn't smile, so I stopped joking. Talk to me, please, I said. Silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff and deciding whether to jump. He turned away first, just slightly, enough that I could tell this wasn't about shame. It was about fear. You asked me why you forget, he said. I nodded. And you looked like that question might kill you. He exhaled slowly. We were lovers, he said. Just like that. No build-up. No hesitation. No poetry. A statement. Simple. Absolute. My heart skipped. Oh, I said. He turned back to me, watching my face like he was bracing for impact. More than once? I asked. Yes. Like, serious lovers? I continued. Yes. I scratched my cheek. Define serious. He looked at me, really looked, and something in his expression softened. Painfully. We chose each other every time before the system, before the resets, before any of this had a name. He said. I felt that strange ache again, that pull in my chest that had no memory attached to it. And then, I asked, and then you started forgetting. He said quietly. I frowned. Just me. Yes. So one day, I woke up and didn't remember you. I said slowly. He nodded. And you did. Yes. That must have been awkward. He let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. You smiled at me, introduced yourself, asked if I was single. He said. I winced. I have a pattern. You always do, he said softly. My chest tightened. And you didn't tell me? No. Why not? His jaw clenched. Because you'll forget no matter what, he said. I swallowed. But you stayed. Yes. Even when I forgot you. Yes. My throat felt tight. How many times? I asked. He hesitated. That scared me. Shin Lu Chen, I said quietly. How many times? Enough that I stopped counting. I ran a hand through my hair. Okay, I muttered. That's a lot. He nodded once. I watched you fall in love with me again. And again. Different worlds. Different names. Same way every time. He said. Loudly? I asked weakly. Yes. I huffed a breath. Figures. I looked down at my hands. So where does the system come in? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, that was my choice. I looked up sharply. What? You weren't bound to it, he said. I was. My heart dropped. You chose that. Yes. Why would you do that? I demanded. His gaze didn't waver. Because you kept disappearing. I felt cold all over. When you died, he continued, voice steady but strained. You moved on. New world. New life. And I was left behind with memory and nowhere to put it. I stepped closer without thinking. So I bound myself to the system so I could follow you, he said. My breath caught. So you'd always be there, I whispered. Yes. Even knowing I wouldn't remember you. Yes. That it would hurt. Yes. I stared at him. You're insane. He nodded. I know. My chest ached. All this time, I thought the system was forcing us together. I said slowly. He shook his head. It only ensured proximity, the rest was always you, he said. I laughed softly, disbelief shaking through me. So every time I thought I was being manipulated, you weren't. I just fell in love on my own? Yes. I pressed my palm to my chest. That explains a lot, actually. He watched me carefully. Does it? Yeah, because even now, knowing all this, I don't feel tricked, I said. His breath stuttered. I searched for the word. Found. He closed his eyes. Just for a second. I never wanted to trap you, he said quietly. If you had ever chosen someone else. I didn't, I said immediately. He opened his eyes. Not once, did I? I continued. No. I smiled faintly. Good. I'd hate to break my streak. I reached for his hand. He stiffened instinctively, then relaxed. You carried all of this alone, I said. Didn't you? Yes. And you never asked me to remember. No. I squeezed his hand. That's a very stupid, and very you, I said gently. His lips curved, just barely. I didn't want to burden you. I stepped closer until there was no space left between us. You idiot. His breath hitched. And you still choose me? He asked, voice almost afraid. I didn't even hesitate. I think that even without memory, even without context, even without knowing why, I leaned in, forehead touching his. I always will. He let out a shaky breath and rested his forehead against mine fully. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The system was silent. Not paused. Not watching. Just irrelevant. Because this wasn't about rules or worlds or resets. This was about a man who chose to follow me through every life. And someone who kept choosing him back. Even when he forgot why. I leaned my forehead against his. If I forget, don't disappear on me, I said. I won't, he replied immediately. And if you get tired, you're allowed to tell me. I added. His grip tightened just a little. I am right now, he said. I smiled. Good. Then stay, I murmured. I am, he repeated. And for the first time, the word didn't sound like a promise made against loss. It sounded like a simple fact,